The main point of the euro is that it is issued by several central banks, the ECB of course, or any national central bank, NCB of the zone. Since the currency is common, it follows that the daily cross-border movements of funds generate a continuous creation of debts and claims between the central banks themselves. In the end, what has happened in the last 24 hours turns into claims or debts of the ECB. Debt to one NCB is a claim on another NCB. These are commonly referred as Target 2 claims and Target 2 debts. And this has been going on, day after day, since the creation of the euro. But the debts and claims are piling up. The hope on which the euro was built was that these would permanently hover around zero, cancel each other out, and so, it was during the early years of the euro. However, after 2007, the ECB's creditors saw their claims rise, and debtors became more and more indebted. The target debt to the Bundesbank climbed from practically zero in 2007 to 1,136 trillion euros, £1 trillion, on the last day of 2020. Obviously, the ECB cannot pay off a sum of this magnitude, therefore, the only hope would be a return to the former trend. But this hope is futile. The upward trend still dominates in the medium term, and this has been going on for 14 years, around 2/3 of the life of the euro. In order to convince us that the euro is not on a collision course with disaster, the ECB has tried to sell various explanations as to why this is happening. Aside from the fact that explaining the cause of an unpleasant fact does not make it any less unpleasant, none of them are convincing. They blame COVID or quantitative easing or claim the problem is already resolved, or it's the loss of mutual trust between commercial banks who have now kissed and made up. The second ECB tactic is bold affirmation, stressing loudly that the accumulation of debts or claims among the central banks is not a danger. Unfortunately, the ECB rhetoric is forced to add as long as no country leaves the eurozone. Obviously, it is as difficult for a country to leave the euro as to leave the EU, so we are told it should not bother us. But the potential departure of a country is precisely the point. It is like saying that your house will not be destroyed before adding the fine print provided that it does not catch fire. So the argument really has no substance. So how can it end? There are three possibilities. First, a miracle happens. At some point, the trend reverts and the Bundesbank's Target 2 claim has returned to less insane levels, say 300 billion euros. Then the Europhile story will explode with enthusiasm and we will be assured that the euro was indestructible and is here forever. Second, there is a shock of a non-purely economic nature, as in 1914 or 1939, and no one wants that. Third and finally, the German authorities admit that the trend will never return. The Bundesbank itself, and other leading commentators, are already convinced the euro faces an ugly death caused by Germany itself. The UK was clever not to ditch the pound, and that choice ultimately led to them being the first to come out of the euro and the EU. But more will follow. In the long run, reality always beats ideology.